Good. Wonderful. Welcome everyone to our August Coaches Launchpad. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are here for a treat, and I will introduce our guest speaker in a minute. Just for everyone to know, in case we have not met, I'm Elena Sarango Muniz, and I am an ICF coach, ACC, and I'm a volunteer. So I started the Coaches Launchpad more than a year ago, actually almost 2 years ago, and with the purpose of creating a community where we can learn from each other. We can bring guest speakers as Mary today to learn from the experts so we can either launch or scale our business, our coaching business. And I know a lot of you attend every month, so thank you. And I think without any further ado, I am going to introduce you to Mary. I'm just going to find my introduction page for Mary. Otherwise, I'm going to have to let Mary introduce her. Oh, no, I got it. I got it. So, Mary Kravitz, she's an award winning client generation expert and international speaker who helps coaches grow their business without working nights and weekends. She's heard all the confusing and conflicting advice out there, so she isn't surprised that most of us struggle to establish a sustainable business. But she's here to change that. Using her methods, the majority of Mary's clients quickly increase their income by 50% or more. Clients range from coaches in their first few years of business to more experienced coaches who are focused on scaling their business. Mary is a huge fan of roller coasters, obsessed with others, and proud mom to her cat, Inigo Montoya. Mary, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. And I am going to jump right in. So today is frank conversations about growing what it actually takes to grow a coaching business. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you three big ideas. We're going to pause in between each for you to reflect. And then after I go through all three, then we will come back for some Q&A. Um, the point of today is not to cram more information into your brain. It really is time to get some bigger high level ideas, reflect, have some aha moments and insights about what is working and what is missing. So you're walking away with just like this off the charts clarity and some confidence about your next steps to grow your business. You with that? You with me on that? So, all right, we're trying not to add too much to your to-do list. All right, so three things I'm going to go over. Number one is going to be the biggest mistake coaches make in growing a business. Number two is why social media doesn't attract clients. And number three is the enemy of a sustainable business. All right, so I'm going to dive right in. Okay, so a biggest mistake. Okay, a little bit of stepping back from the biggest mistake coaches make. So the thing is, if you want the whole enchilada of a business, you want to make a difference, strong income, and have time freedom, you need two skill sets: coaching skills, client generation skills. And I'm going to define this client generation, and I use this very deliberately instead of business development or marketing because they're so broad, they're so vague, and the last thing you need when you're growing a coaching business is a lack of clarity, because client generation is very specific. It speaks to what coaches actually want and need. But it's not taught in universities, in your corporate background. It's definitely not intuitive, which you might already be feeling if you've made some wrong turns. But the important thing to know about client generation is it is a skill set that can be learned. It is not genetic, okay? And like any skill, there's always a faster way to learn it if you have a framework to follow, so you're not wasting time on strategies that don't work. So it is a skill set that can be learned, but here's the biggest mistake, promise I'll reveal that, is that when coaches feel unsure about their business, they revert to what is comfortable, and that's investing in more coaching skills. And this was really driven home to me when a client many years ago, she admitted to me that deep down, she believed that if they were just a better coach, they'd get more clients. But the truth is, your coaching skills and your client generation skills, they're kind of like two sides of the same coin. One without the other. Corn? Did I say corn? Coin. They're two sides of the same coin. One and one without the other leaves your business feeling very lopsided. And if you've been leaning too hard on one side, you've already felt kind of that wobble. You know, fewer clients, inconsistent income, maybe even feeling a little burnt out or discouraged when your efforts aren't paying off. But both skill sets, and this is, by the way, it's very normal to go reach for coaching skills. It's like my business isn't working, you reach for what's familiar. It's very normal. But when you have both skill sets, you turn your business into a well-oiled machine with every effort pulling in the same direction. When you're balanced in those two skill sets, you know what to do. You're confident that what you're going to do is actually what you're doing is going to bring in clients. And you know, the thing is, the key to all of this, the skill sets, is just being a good student. You know, my most successful clients are great students. They just have to apply it to the right skill set. So you've got what is needed. It's just focusing in the right direction. All right. So with all of this, hearing all of this, actually, before I give you a reflection question, without this skill set balance, what happens is that people end up getting into the subcontracting trap. They think I'll just put in a few hours, I'll just get my hours over here, and it is just so out of balance, time and money and what they pay you and the work you're doing and the run, that that seems like a really good solution to start, but it really can trap you. I'd say about 50% of my clients hire me because they want to source their own clients and they didn't learn how. A lot of times with a coaching business, there's kind of this big like excitement at the beginning. Clients come in, no, you don't learn the skill set. There's a fall off, and you're left going, well, this was so easy for the first 6 months, year, but it's because the skill set isn't there that you're starting to do this. So, what I'd like you to do at this point is take a minute or two, hearing all this, what is coming up for you. And I'm not going to do a discussion here. I want you to reflect. I want you to really own your experience with this before we go into discussion after I go to all three. So what's coming up for you? I'm going to be quiet so you can write down, what are you realizing you might need at this point? All right, and if you want to just give me a little wave when you feel good about the time.
Mary, I would say, if I may, I would say a structure, personally, a system that I
Mm-hmm.
can repeat and repeat. Lisa says the same thing, a system and structure to convert ideal clients.
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. I'd like to go through all of these and then get the discussion going. So let's just, what I generally find is if I start diving into this, our timeline is blown and I don't get to everything. So, Elena, breaking the rules for the whole group. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was distracted
Yeah,
because of the messages. So
yeah,
I'm going to mute myself.
you're doing work. I'm just teasing you. All right, I'm going to go on to the next one, but we're going to do it this way. Concept, reflection, writing, and then we'll come back to the next one. So two more. Second one, why social media doesn't attract clients. And boy, people get really, my coach clients get really excited when you hear this. I also call this the social media myth. Okay, so to really understand this, we need to kind of zoom out and look at the big, messy picture of marketing. And think about marketing as two big buckets. All right. Bucket one is visibility and credibility. Bucket two is lead generation. Okay. Visibility and credibility. Bucket one. These are all the static things online. They're your social media profiles, your websites, maybe podcast interviews, anything that kind of just sits there. For visibility activities to actually bring in clients, an ideal client would have to stumble upon you at the exact moment they're ready to hire. You will have chosen the exact right words that will move them, and you'll have clear logistical instructions on how they need to take action. And I think of this as kind of the post and hope method of client generation. Bucket two is lead generation. And this is when you intentionally put yourself in your ideal client's path, building relationships and that know, like, trust factor. So if you meet them and they have an immediate need, they inquire right away because you have the right answer, the right words to the answer, what do you do? And if they don't need you right away, then you're creating that relationship. So you're the obvious choice when that time does come. Now, the trap of social media is because we see social media everywhere. And what happens is because we see it everywhere, most coaches put 90% of their time into it. But in reality, something like 90% of coaches' business comes through relationships and referrals. Think about it. When someone's referred to you, the first thing they do is check you out online. They're not looking for an Instagram star. They just want to know you're credible. So in a coaching business, the right proportion is you want to spend about 10 to 20% of your time on social media. Some of my clients spend less. And then 80 to 90% on actual lead generation. Without a structure for balancing these, your client generation feels very unpredictable, like a roller coaster. Okay. You want to think about the important thing when you're thinking about tactics like social media or speaking or any of these things is there isn't anything that is bad or wrong. It just has to be given the right job and given the right amount of your time. All right, so hearing this idea, social media doesn't work to attract clients, what is coming up for you? I'm going to have you just reflect and write. What's coming up for you? What are you realizing you might need without anyone else's opinion or idea? What's coming up for you? What are you realizing you might need? And we'll come back to this in the discussion portion. I'm going to set a timer for a minute. All right, that feels like a really long time. I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next one. All right, the third thing we're going to reflect on is the enemy of a sustainable business. So the coaches I work and most of the coaches I know, the coaches I work with, most of them want a sustainable business, not one of these, drink from the fire hose, massive action nights and weekends type of thing. You want to make good money without working or stressing out all the time, where you have a flexible schedule doing work that makes a difference. The enemy of a sustainable business is the urgent. The urgent, because there's a big difference between having a sustainable plan and and system versus chasing quick wins or hustling to do massive launches that keep you in that feast or famine mode. So focusing on attraction. This is just a little like phrase that I like to use. I stole it from the recovery the recovery community, but you want to focus on attraction, not promotion. It's not about convincing, pushing, or scrambling to fill your calendar. And sustainability comes from, I'm going to give you a couple of points to think about. Sustainability comes from specificity and intentionality in three areas. And those are two of my favorite words: specificity, intentionality. And if I had to choose one, it would be specificity. So, specificity and intentionality in three areas. Number one is strategy, knowing how all the pieces of your business fit together so every effort reinforces the other. Specificity and intentionality. Number two is action, being crystal clear on the activities that will bring you clients so you're not spinning your wheels. So it's great to have a strategy and a plan, but it can gather dust. So if you don't boil it down to what is on my to-do list, what is 100% controllable, it's not going to move the needle. And the third specificity is one I haven't talked about as much, but it's really what I nerd out on a lot, and that is time. Specificity of time, managing your calendar so those actions happen consistently without exhausting yourself. I love working with my clients to figure out what is that schedule of time that works for you. Is it 4 days a week? Is it half days, 5 days a week? Like, what is it that works for you? And how do you craft your strategy and actions so that you have the focus to do what needs to be done? Specificity, intentionality. And when you have specificity and intentionality in those areas, you know what to do, you know when to do it, you know how it all works together, so you can grow without sacrificing your personal time. And that brings me back to the first point, which is learning the skill set of client generation, structure and specificity, so you stop wasting time second guessing or getting stuck in analysis and paralysis. And that structure is what gives you the consistency you want without giving up flexibility, without giving up creativity, without becoming someone you're not. Okay, so specificity and intentionality as a way to combat the urgent. So, with this big idea, what's coming up for you? What are you realizing you might need? And I'm going to set that never ending 1 minute timer, and then we'll go into discussion. All right. So I'd love to just quickly hear I want to take questions, but first I'd just love to hear if anything just jumped out at you. Like, what was the thing that provided some relief, direction, clarity? I think of it as bright spots. Like, what was the bright spot you've heard so far? And just unmute or put it in the chat. But I love unmuting if you can do that and talk to me.
Yeah,
Yeah, on. Hi.
yes. I really love when you talk about the specificity because currently I think that I am stuck at the segment because I have such a broad client and it's again no specificity. Um, and that is hard for me to offer because I don't know the program should apply for everybody, but the application for each segments would be different, and their behavior, their emotions, their thought, and the situation would be different.
Mm-hmm.
And without specifics, it's really hard to tailor made for them. In that scenario, how can I gain that clarity on each segment,
Mm-hmm.
even to know, even if those are my right ideal clients.
So, oh, thank you for asking the question because I love this. What I generally find when people have different segments is that there are unifying characteristics to your ideal clients. Like they are lifelong learners, or they are at a turning point in their life, or something is happening that is universal. And so so here's the thing is if you try to go after market segments, then you are having multiple marketing plans. I do not recommend it. It is exhausting. So instead, if you can think about, I think of this overarching persona of your ideal client, like what are three things that unify them? Okay. What are those three things? Identify those. And then these different segments, then you might think of target markets. Like, okay, they might be like, where does this person gather? They might be in tech, they might be in financial services, they might be in this. And that directs you to where to go for your lead generation. But it's still the same ideal client. And if you have different tools to serve them, like, oh, I do coaching, I do consulting, those aren't different segments either. It's different ways to serve people. And you don't even bring out those tools because your ideal clients probably don't even know they need them. So you only bring those out later. Okay. So I just said a lot of things. What is standing out to you on?
Wow, these are good. These are good. It changed the approach. Instead of focus on the segment, I focus on myself, what I have to offer, and what they have in common where they are at. And the approach now go back into me instead of them. Now it's easier to track and to tailor made because I have the all of the tools already.
Yeah.
Um, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank
So
you.
so then the next thing that you'll be looking for is how do you create the language that attracts them? Because good messaging is all about how do you first and foremost answer the question, what do you do? And I always think of the answer needs to be a magic mirror. Like you say the words, it's like holding up a mirror and your ideal client goes, that's me. They immediately recognize themselves. When you have your messaging dialed in, I have literally myself and my clients have met someone and closed them into, thousands of dollars of deals within a week because you're just so dialed in on who they are. What are people most interested in? Themselves. Describe who they are. They hear that you understand them and they want to know more because you're talking about them. So of course they want to know more. So that's the next thing to do. And it's another one of those pieces that is not super intuitive, but when you break it down, can become simpler. So,
And that brought me to this thing that I am facing right now. Also, as in terms of languages, I been able to attract 2 to 3 people into my world every week, like organically. They told me that it so resonate with them when they reach out to me and they said this and they said that. Um, but then turn out that they are not really who I am targeting. So it showed me that the language I use is mostly attract the one in my circle, what I'm struggling with, not necessarily the the right ideal like clients that I am go um,
yeah.
after. Yes.
Well,
So
and thank you for saying that. And that is common because sometimes we go, oh, well, here's who's around me. So here's how I attract them. But you want to attract the people who you can serve, who value your services at the level you charge for them. And that is not necessarily the people who are around you.
yes,
You have to go
yes,
somewhere else. All right. Thanks, An.
yeah.
I'm
Thank you
gonna
very
go. I'm gonna go to. I saw something in the chat. Let's see. Um, got a couple comments here. I'm going to go through less social media, primarily focus on lead generation. And then on, you said often if I don't see a result, I get discouraged. Okay. One quick guiding light that I have for myself and my clients I learned early on is focus on activity, not results. Because when you're building a relationship based business, there's a sales cycle to it. People need to trust you. Sometimes it can happen very quickly, but also sometimes it takes a while. So recognizing your actions, tracking your actions, and focusing on 100% controllable action so that down the road you create a formula for how much action equals how many results. You have to stay the course on that. So recognizing that you can control activities, but not results. Lisa says, happy not to focus on social media. Yep, you know it. And it's also not as effective. So yeah, it's awesome. Um, let's see. Renee said intentional time blocking. On mentioned something about measurement. Yeah, you're wanting to track your activities and results. Um, and I'll give you a resource on that in a second here, but I'd like to hear another maybe bright spot or question from someone at this point, because that's what we're gonna do for the rest of our time. You wrote down a bunch of reflection ideas. I'm curious what came up through that.
I thought it was interesting that you said that the social media posts and such are not as, shall we say, fruitful as I would have hoped, right? So, and I found that's definitely to be the case. I mean, people do seem to, appreciate, respond. They tell me nice things about the things that I post and such, but I can't point to very many specific client opportunities that have come out of that. So my hypothesis is that I want to put enough of that content on, say, my LinkedIn profile, so that when people do come across me, they see what kind of my vibe is. But
Yeah.
the key question is what to do beyond that is the challenge.
Yeah, and I feel like I am I'm bursting people's bubble, but for the right reasons. Because a lot of people do what you do, and that is we're posting on social media, and it's because we see it. It's like we see it, we figure that's what people are doing, and what you don't see is the Starbucks card I send to thank people for referral, the little thank you notes. We don't see this, so the idea that referrals could be your whole business, referrals and speaking could be your whole business, it just isn't intuitive. It isn't what we see out in the world. It's not very sexy. It's very, personal and relational. Um, and the thing is the answer for everyone is a little different. Like, what is the combination of activities that really works for them? So, for instance, for 3, 4 years in my business prior to the pandemic, I only did speaking. I did no networking. I did no referral generation. I did zero. 3, 4 speaking gigs a month. All I did. That worked for me. Someone who's terrified of speaking absolutely should not go through the personal growth curve and the learning curve and all of that to get to be speaking before they can get coaching clients. You want to go lead into like, what is your natural ability? What's your natural network? What is your inclination? What are your values? And really lean into that, but then work within a strategic framework to apply the way you work best. Okay. So a little bit different for everyone. Number one way that coaches get clients, though, is through relationships and referrals. Yeah. And your idea of like having enough content so that they get your vibe, what you're about, be the same thing on any platforms you are on, so they see that consistency.
Can you shut my door?
That's all it really. That's all it really needs. So thanks,
Yeah,
Lisa.
just to kind of piggyback on top of that,
Yeah.
I just received a referral because I have a podcast,
Mhm.
and somebody that I had a relationship with and did some work with probably 5 years ago just referred someone
Nice.
to the podcast. Yeah,
Okay.
we get a lot of referrals for that, so I definitely believe in that. But I was thinking of kind of like the strategy when it comes to referrals,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm sure you have one. It sounds like you're just throwing it out there, right?
Yeah.
Can you speak a little more about that?
Um, Yes, and so
Okay. Yeah.
so because what happens when I talk about tactics, it's like I can tell you all the tactics in the world. If you don't have the overarching strategy, you can be running a million miles an hour after a referral strategy. And if the other pieces of the strategy aren't dialed in, it's kind of like trying to get more fruit by trimming a tree into the shape of a flamingo. It's just like it's not the rate, it's not necessarily the whole picture of what needs to be done. With referrals, it is about being, I was about to say specific, being specific and intentional, but it really is. Um, Being specific about who are the key people you need to meet, who specifically do you want to be referred to, and how do you describe it to people? So Ann and I were talking about that internal experience of the ideal client, how you describe them so that they recognize themselves. You also need to craft a description of how other people would recognize them from the outside, because it's a very different experience. So understanding that, and then getting very specific about what is your nurture,
Mhm.
what is your, how do you nurture people? And I truly believe that if you find 30 people who refer consistently, who are big fans of yours, you don't need much else, but you got to nurture them consistently. And start thinking about who are your centers of influence. Centers of influence, I define as people who cross paths with 10 or more of your ideal clients a month. Elena is a center of influence for me. I'm going to take good care of Elena. But what is that, like, what is that really specific method of nurturing? And that means how many people are you going to reach out to? Where's your list of people to reach out to? What are you going to do this month? What are you going to do next month? What are you going to do the month after that? And getting buy-in from them. So I first learned this when I was in real estate. It must have been like 150 years ago. And and I was nurturing people and they had no idea why, because I was never upfront about here's why I'm going to keep in touch. If you ever run across someone who needs my services, I want you to know that I'm always here paying attention and helping you with anything you need. So, like qualifying. So, that's a step in the process too. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, let me give you a resource because I think this is going to be the piece that pulls it all together for us. So, what would be most helpful probably is seeing all of the elements of client generation kind of laid out together so you can assess what you have in place and what's missing so you know what to focus on next. Do you think would that be helpful? I think like getting the whole
Yeah.
picture. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so here's what I can do. Each month I do a complimentary kind of introduction to client generation. It's called More Clients, Less Marketing. You get the clear structure, you get the framework, a generous helping of specificity for you. So you're getting out of that throwing spaghetti against the wall mode. Free, practical. I personally walk you through all the exact elements that create that strategy. So you're not going off, carving a flamingo when you want more apples. Um, so let me get you that info and I'm going to put it in the chat, the site. So I do this each month. Um, if the times don't work for you, you can request the recording. Or if you're just super impatient and can't wait till Thursday or next month when I'm doing it. There's always the up-to-date dates there. So anytime you run across a coach who would like this kind of perspective, you can always send them to this site. You can always send them to this site. And for people listening to the recording, if you're listening to this down the road, the page is simplygetclients.com/free intro. You can also just go to my homepage. There's literally a huge arrow pointing towards a button that says take the class. I don't make it difficult. So yeah, that's a great place to get some more details. And we do an assessment of what strategy, what lead generation tactic is going to work best for you based on what you like and what works for you. And then we also look at the whole system. I also do this mindset to give you a mindset tool. It's kind of a whole enchilada type of thing and quite a bit of discussion. All right. Any questions about that or any other bright spots or reflection points you'd like to share out? Because it always gives more a depth of perspective to everyone else in the room if you're willing to put your voice in the room. Okay. So
Mary, I found this to be helpful. I really appreciate your doing this. It's interesting to think about the different methods and the strategy behind it. And I appreciate that. I'll definitely look into this going forward.
thanks, Mike. And you know what? You just reminded me by speaking up again. One thing you said is you said when you're posting, you get attention and people appreciate it and so forth, but it doesn't lead to business. And this is one of the things that I always want to bring to the awareness of coaches is when you're brainstorming about, oh, I want to do, I tried this, I got that. Making sure that when someone says this is working for me on any strategy, any tactic that they're doing, when someone says this is working for me, ask for a definition of working for me, because people get excited about like, ooh, I posted this video and I got all this, people responded to it, but it didn't lead to business. So this is, I think, particularly important when you're brainstorming with other coaches, because I know a lot of coaches aren't like, yay, marketing, client generation strategy, not really the thing. So brainstorming with other people who are learning, ask a clarifying question. Oh, you said this is working for you. What do you mean? Like, what's coming out of it?
One thing that struck me from what you just said is that many of my clients are men in pain, right? Men are trying to struggle with the work or relationship, etc. And I find that I'm getting the sense that many of them are reluctant to reach out, right? Because of the fact that they're in pain and perhaps embarrassed to talk about it. What stories or experience have you had with other clients perhaps that have crossed that particular mountain and gotten to the other side somehow?
Yeah, and you know what? This falls into a broader category, which is um, people who are not going to be willing to admit the problem in public.
Mhm.
And so
Yes.
the strategy, the approach is always the same. And it is your messaging is about their potential more than
Mhm.
their pain. You have to say, these are high achieving men. These are people who are used to just taking the world by storm, and an injury or just something has knocked them off their game, and they're done trying to figure it out themselves or something like that. But you acknowledge like where they're going first. And then you don't say, and they're in so much pain they can't get out of bed in the morning. And they're like, oh, that's me. They won't do that in front of their peers. Um, so you've got to be able to message the pain enough, but not so much that it's embarrassing or they wouldn't be willing to raise their hand in public. That's always the litmus test in my mind.
Good stuff. Thank you.
You're welcome. And this is the thing, the specificity and the nuance of some of this stuff. And that's why I like starting with this class, like the big framework, here are all the pieces. Let's get our first draft of that in place. And then how do we dial into all the details of this stuff? Yeah. All right. So we're at a great place. If I don't have anything, I'm going to go into the chat real quick because I saw some things popping up. Okay. All right. There was all other stuff. I would love to see if you'd be willing to just go around the room and just what is one bright spot. I know sometimes it's more comfortable when you're invited to put your voice in the room than volunteering putting your voice in the room. So let me do something real quick and see if I can No, I can't do that. Okay, I'm just gonna call out. So, Elena, would you be willing? And then I'm gonna go with Mike anyway, even though you put your voice in the room, and I'm just gonna go person by person. You can pass if you want to. Completely fine. So, Elena, what's your bright spot?
What do you mean by bright spot, Mary?
What is it that stands out for you that you're gonna take away from today,
Thank you.
or define it however you like?
Thank you. Um, actually, I will register for your class, your next class for sure. I want to hear more. I think one of the things that I got is that and we hear this all the time, but you kind of normalize it, that we tend to shift back to what we're comfortable, develop more skills, get a new certification and all that, when everything really starts with I like what you said, your circle of influence. And if we all probably have this huge network because of our previous careers, to where our circle of influence is not just 10 people, it's many people.
Hmm.
So I'm like, why is that I haven't tapped into that circle of influence? And maybe I don't have the right strategy to do that. So that's where that was my bright spot there.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Thanks for calling back that comfort zone. And the thing is that it's so problematic because it gives you the illusion of progress. You want to be progressing in getting more clients, but you're working and working and working in the skill set over here, and it's this illusion because you're busy and not working on
Yes,
the right things. Yeah,
thank you. Yeah,
awesome.
thank you, Mary. So I'll pass it on to Mike, who's on the next to me.
Mike
Yeah,
and then Renee.
yeah. The idea of posting and hoping is doesn't work. That's somewhat reassuring in a sense. So I'll leave it at that.
Good, great. All right, Renee, then Patrick.
Yeah, I've already registered for the next class on August 14th.
Awesome.
And mine is the referral process because I do come into contact and I do a podcast with three other professional women, and we have large networks from other organizations that we've worked for, but I've never been intentional about the referral part of it. That's why I was asking that.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm going to be doing
Okay.
as an action
Wonderful.
step.
I usually I have a resource that's specifically on referrals that I usually give as a giveaway at the class. You will definitely want that. And I'm just going to mention this because it just gets me all excited. I do a 90-day cohort as a part of a 1-year program, and we dig into and accelerate contact and templates for emails. So if you've ever considered working in a cohort just focused on client generation, the goal is 10 client leads in the first 90 days. And when someone
Oh,
says I have a huge network, I'm like, you're gonna kill it. So I get excited. Thanks, Renee.
you're welcome.
Patrick and Lisa.
So I'm brand new to this gig, so in all ways. So I appreciate this is a tremendous resource. So I just graduated from Coach Rice, and I sold my soul to MD Anderson for 2 years because they paid for it. So I have to stick around. I was going to retire this year actually, but this gig came up, and I've always been a mentor. So this is a nice, jump to the next level for me. So I appreciated you guys saying you're not relying on the social media. That is a huge help for me because, I look on LinkedIn and I see all these coaches and it's like they're all saying the same thing, right? So as you mentioned, or several of you mentioned, the whole idea of differentiation is something I'm going to totally focus on. One question I did have, and you don't have to discuss it today, but maybe this could be a topic. I do want to get some kind of a web presence. So, I'm building a website just to have something on there. But it would be helpful to know like what sort of elements I should put in there, how you guys use your websites, if you have websites, and that sort of thing. And I'll stop talking.
Yeah. I'll just say one thing about websites, and the best advice I ever got is people don't go looking for you, they go looking for themselves. And so thinking about when someone lands on your website, do they see themselves? All right. William, then on. It's hard to hear you. I don't know if you've got a microphone problem. Barely
No, William.
muted. It sounds like you've got something covering your microphone.
Well, go to someone else and I'll try to fix this.
Okay, that's actually a little better. So it sounds like you're moving closer to whatever the microphone is that's activated.
Oh, I thought it was the headphones I had on.
All right, that's a little
Um,
better.
Okay, so I learned a lot in the reflection. I've seen a lot of you talk about it's hard medium say it specificity.
Specificity.
Yeah, yeah. Because I'm in that space of trying to figure some stuff out. See, I still work full time and I coach part time, and I am running out of time. And so I'm at this point where I had to stop looking for one-on-one clients and
Mm.
start trying to find a way to build programs to do more group stuff. But with that, the engagement of relationships and referrals just stands out for me as to where I need to go in order to do that. 'Cause I still have a year and a half before I retire and go into coaching full time. So it's about building this step by step until I get to that point.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. A couple of things. One is sometimes people make the leap to I need to do programs. Sometimes it's actually the easiest way to earn the money you want to earn, which I'm assuming is part of the equation for you. Is that
It's part of it, but this is more of a calling
okay?
than a get rich scheme.
Okay. So so I'll answer for other people, but if income is part of it, sometimes I find people go to group programs. And the problem with group programs is you need more leads. And if you don't know
Mhm.
how to generate one lead, and now you need 17 people to start your program or 6 people, now you need multiples of that.
Mhm.
So a lot of times the easiest way to get to higher income is charging better for your one-on-one programs.
Mhm.
And also, I forgot what I was going to say next. But the second thing is, which I do remember, is especially when you are working alongside your coaching practice, specificity is so important, because if you have 2 hours and you're not sure what to do with that 2 hours to invest in your business, you can't sit down and go, okay, what do I do? It's like I sit down and I contact these 5 people and I just, like specificity. Because the fact is that whether you want to make $40,000 or $400,000, the level of specificity of your structure and your plan has to be exactly the same. Exactly the same. If you want consistent results. So
Well, I'll be on your call.
awesome.
We're
Awesome.
gonna get this together.
All right. Thank you. All right. On and then Laura.
Yeah, as for me, one thing that stand out for me is the introspective work that I need to do. Instead of looking out for different market segment, I can find the overarching persona of my ideal clients and then thinking about the tools that I can offer to serve them. And it's
Yeah.
the same for referral. I need to be able to communicate what I want to be known for, what I am here for. That part, I think I'm not so clear. Well, I'm clear about my program, but what does it do? I'm not so clear about that.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a lot to to work on, but
Yes.
at the same time, so I can see that it can cut down on all the things that I've been research on for the last 4 months. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I'm going to emphasize something you said. You said it's a lot of things. And the fact is, like, just like you went into coaching school, there's a lot to learn there. When you are learning how to create an income by attracting clients, there are a lot of details. It's possible, but it isn't something you skate through. Yeah, it's detailed. And I think, and I say this because there's a lot of self-judgment, like, why can't I do this? And it's like, because it takes time and attention. Yeah. All right, Laura, then Angie.
Thanks, Mary. So I'm kind of with Patrick and William. I'm new to the gig. I'm still working full time, working on my certification, and I have a little bit of a timeline in my head as far as when I want to, um, I guess, retire again because I've already retired once, but now I'm back to full time. However, and again, my head's just swirling. I have, I think, 5 pages of notes right here. So, but one of the things that, of the many things that resonated was, I have a couple of or markets that I have worked full time. Education is one. Now I'm in the corporate world,
Mhm.
and I've been kind of like, do I focus on educators? Do I focus on? But I loved um, the unifying piece of the ideal client because there's so many things across both of those pieces that um will connect leaders, and that's kind of the area.
Nice.
And then all of the, because it's so funny that you said like, when someone says to you, what do you do? I just fumble around with that. I'm not real sure what I do. Like, I'm not sure what those words are, but I love, and I really want to play with the idea of, people seeing themselves, in my website presence, in the words, the language that I use. I really want to explore that a little bit more. So thank you.
You're
I'm
welcome.
following you on LinkedIn now. So, all right.
Because I do have a social media presence, by the way. I do a little bit more. So thank you, Laura. And I like to connect with people. LinkedIn is my favorite place. All right, Angie, and then Kate, if you would like.
So I think the two things that I've picked up out of this is one, Mike, whenever you said post and hope, I think that was brilliant. I've given up on posting and hoping. Mary's definitely shown me that. The other thing that I think that I really just need to focus on is just making a very intentional network. Before it was just like, oh, I met you, now you're part of my network. And now it's about, it's amazing how many times I just say, no, we just don't have anything right now. So I'm becoming very intentional about the network that I build.
Yeah.
I'd say that's what I've pulled from this.
And can you give people perspective on where you're coming from with our relationship? just so, just real-
So I've known Mary since 2023. I've worked with her. I've gone through a couple of her programs. Right now, I'm working on building a talk that sells, and she has changed the way I think about how I market my business. I did not know, like many of you, did not know what I was doing. I know I have a passion for coaching, is what I was called to do. I coach HR professionals. I could give you my magnetic messaging if I want. Mary shows you the things to do to be able to build the business that you want to have. So, and that was not paid, I promise you. That was honest to God truth. So quite amazing.
Thanks, Angie.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons I ask for the perspective to clarify is because that the nuance of this, it's ongoing. I mean, I learned something about material that I created 10 years ago this year. I learned another layer of why it works, why the sales conversation works. It's fascinating. So thanks, Angie. All right, Kate, I know you're off camera, but if you'd like to share, unmute and you're still muted, Kate. Kate, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Kate, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Mary, for sharing. I was occupied, but earlier I was not able to be here. I caught up a little bit, but
What
yeah,
stood
well,
out to you?
a lot to learn. So I'm just at the beginning of this or re-beginning of this marketing. I just got my 2 credentials,
Okay.
major credentials, and so now I don't have excuse anymore. As you said before, I was hiding, buried in my studying, and then try to be the best coach I can be because I wasn't confident. to go out to do a lot of things. Or I have a little visibility on LinkedIn, but I haven't done much in last couple of years. I
Okay.
feel I'm just learning to try to switch gear. Okay, yeah, now what? Now you got to do this part, otherwise there's no income. Um,
Okay.
I think I feel hopeful when you say there is no social media. Um, I think you said it makes sense to me. Okay, social media make you credible, reputable, and visible, but does not make you wallet, right? That because
Yeah, it doesn't
you
bring
see
in the
that was
clients.
marketing. I could do marketing. I have no problem to share values, but sales is a different story. You know, you really nail
Yes.
down, really get a result. That's a different story. I could there I do public speaking as well, conference speaker, all these things. But I didn't get any client. That was such shameful. That was
Yeah,
pitiful.
you're not alone.
And yeah, and no client. Well, this time I just finished another conference that I spoke, and
Okay.
so I don't want to miss the opportunity. Maybe I will. Yeah, I think I need some guidance in that. I need to work on that, vacant my time. I never avail myself in to learn more, and I got to learn, practice, learn, practice.
Yeah.
I didn't have that in my forefront. Yeah, but I will. I need to.
Yeah, it's that other skill set for sure. All right. Thanks, Kate. And I just noticed the time and realized that I have to go at the top of the hour because I actually have a cohort of my clients I need to serve. But Veronica or Megan, if you want to come on and give your like 30-second bright spot, and if you don't want to, that's all right too. Hey, Megan, you need to, but both of you need to unmute. Megan, you need to unmute.
I had pushed unmute, but it apparently didn't do it. So anyway,
Okay.
I apologize that I couldn't be on earlier, but I've been listening and I love your idea about the internal message for people to recognize themselves, and then the idea about having others recognize them with referrals. I agree with Renee. Referrals are going to be a super important part. And I was just going to say ditto of what Laura said on everything. So thank you so much for the today. It was really helpful. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right. I'm gonna, Veronica, if you want to come on, otherwise I can do a quick wrap up.
I can do that just quickly. The two things that came out for me is reconfirming that 89% of leads actually come from relationships and referrals. So that was good to hear. And then the unifying characteristics of the client, that also stood out for me. So thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Two things to wrap up. Number one, all of these realizations, when you're going through your notes, I want you to go through and I want you to put the word how next to all of them, because I don't want you to get in the trap of, this is a great idea, now I'm clear. So then you have to answer the question of how I'm going to do it. How does it turn into actions, and how does it turn into clients? All right, so that's number one. The second thing is, I know sometimes people come to these groups to check me out as a potential mentor. And so if that is the case, it's fine. But if you are not like, I want to learn more, I want to learn more, I want to learn more, if you just want to cut to the chase and get into a conversation with me, you can email me at mary@simplygetclients.com. I'm going to put that into the chat. mary@simplygetclients.com. Let me know a little bit about what you're looking to work on, and we can set up a time to talk. There's always a handful of people, and I don't want to leave them out.
Mary, thank you so much for your time. I know all the coaches here have learned a lot from you. We appreciate that you came and shared your knowledge and wisdom with us, and I'm sure some of us will be contacting you. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for staying until the end. Have a good day and
Thank
week.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.